Africa has witnessed many betrayals, but few were as devastating, as shocking, or as meticulously orchestrated as the one you're about to hear. A man who dared to speak truth was hunted by superpowers, sabotaged by his own army, silenced by the world, and erased with acid, but his spirit refused to die. Before you watch this story, ask yourself, what does it take to kill a man's body, but fail to kill his dream? Today, you will learn the truth they buried. This is the Lumumba plot. In the heart of Africa lies a story drenched in blood, betrayal, and an unquenchable thirst for freedom. It is the story of Patrice Lumumba, a man who dared to dream of a Congo unshackled from colonial chains, a voice that roared louder than the guns that sought to silence him. This is not just a history of a leader's fall. It is the story of a continent's struggle, the fight for dignity, and the ruthless forces that conspired to crush a revolution before it could begin. But Lumumba's spirit was never broken. His courage echoed through generations, igniting fires of liberation from the villages of the Congo to the capitals of the world. Today, we peel back the layers of conspiracy, uncover the brutal truths, and honor the legacy of the man the world tried to erase. This is the story they didn't want you to know: the Lumumba plot. Patrice Lumumba was born in 1925 in the remote village of Onalwa, deep in the heart of the Belgian Congo, a land shackled by brutal colonial exploitation. Under Belgian rule, Congolese people were reduced to forced laborers in rubber plantations and mines, their humanity stripped away by a regime that saw them as mere tools for resource extraction. Against this backdrop of oppression and suffering, young Lumumba's sharp intellect and fierce sense of justice began to emerge. Though his formal education was limited, he was a voracious reader of French literature and political philosophy, and he absorbed the words of liberty and dignity like a flame igniting in the dark. Lumumba's early work as a postal clerk and beer salesman introduced him to the realities faced by ordinary Congolese: daily indignities, systemic racism, and the suffocating grip of colonial authority. These experiences fueled his conviction that the Congo's future could not be forged under foreign chains. By the mid-1950s, Lumumba had become a charismatic voice for change, founding the Mouvement National Congolais, MNC, the first nationalist party to demand full political independence and racial equality. Unlike other leaders who favored gradual reforms, Lumumba spoke plainly and passionately. Congo must be free, whole, and sovereign. No compromises, no half measures. In 1958, Lumumba attended the historic All-African Peoples Conference in Accra, Ghana, where he met some of the greatest Pan-African leaders of the era, including Kwame Nkrumah. This gathering of liberation pioneers electrified him. He returned home infused with the Pan-African dream, a vision of African nations rising together, breaking colonial chains, and reclaiming their dignity and destiny. Lumumba began to speak not just of political freedom, but of economic emancipation and cultural revival, fiercely condemning the legacies of exploitation that still enslaved his people. His fiery rhetoric, his refusal to bow to colonial authority, and his bold vision won him a powerful following among the Congolese masses, but also made him an enemy to Belgium and Western powers who profited from the Congo's riches. They labeled him a dangerous radical, a communist sympathizer. But to his people, Lumumba was a beacon of hope, the voice of a generation ready to stand and fight for a future not dictated by foreign masters, but by themselves. June 30th, 1960, was meant to be a day of jubilation. The Congo was finally free from Belgian rule. At the independence ceremony in Leopoldville, now Kinshasa, King Baudouin of Belgium gave a speech praising colonialism as a civilizing mission, an insult that hung in the air like a dark cloud. Then Lumumba rose to speak. His words struck like thunder. He reminded the world of the brutal scars left by colonialism, the blood and tears soaked into the soil of his homeland. He declared that independence was just the beginning. The real liberation required reclaiming the land, the economy, and the soul of the nation. Lumumba's vision extended beyond mere political freedom. He demanded social justice and economic sovereignty. He believed that Congo's immense natural wealth, the vast deposits of copper, uranium, and diamonds, should belong to the Congolese people, not foreign corporations. But independence did not bring peace. Within days, the colonial-era army, the Force Publique, mutinied, exposing deep ethnic divisions and chaos. The richest province, Katanga, led by Moise Tshombe and backed by Belgian mining interests, declared secession, threatening to rip the country apart. The United Nations was called in to restore order, but refused to provide Lumumba with the military assistance he requested to quell the secession and secure national unity. Instead, the UN acted cautiously, wary of provoking the Cold War powers. Meanwhile, Western governments feared Lumumba's perceived ties to the Soviet Union. Despite his insistence on non-alignment, the CIA and the US State Department began covert operations to monitor and undermine him, setting the stage for a dark and ruthless campaign against Congo's first prime minister. Lumumba's dream of a united independent Congo was under siege from day one. Betrayed by international powers, isolated in his own capital, and confronted by internal rebellion, he stood at the eye of a storm that was as much geopolitical as it was personal. The very forces that had cheered independence now moved to silence the man who dared to claim it fully for his people. To the CIA and Western intelligence agencies, Patrice Lumumba was not a freedom fighter, but a threat to the global balance of power. The Cold War had brought Africa into its deadly orbit, and Lumumba's nationalist rhetoric was painted as communist sympathizing, a dangerous label in a world obsessed with containing Soviet influence. President Dwight Eisenhower and CIA Director Allen Dulles reportedly authorized a covert operation to remove Lumumba from power, codenamed WY/Rogue. The goal was clear: neutralize, isolate, and eliminate the Congolese leader before he could steer his country toward any path they deemed unacceptable. Larry Devlin, the CIA station chief in Congo, orchestrated a variety of assassination attempts, including poisoning Lumumba's toothpaste and plans for a lethal injection. Yet the actual coup plotters would come from within Congo itself. Colonel Joseph Mobutu, once a loyalist in Lumumba's government, was bribed and backed by Belgian and American operatives to stage a coup. Belgium, anxious to maintain its economic interests and influence in Congo, supplied critical intelligence and logistical support. This was not just a foreign plot, it was a betrayal from within. Operation Barracuda, the code name for the campaign to unseat Lumumba, moved swiftly. Mobutu's forces took control of Leopoldville, placing Lumumba under house arrest. Western powers watched in cold calculation as the once fiery leader was stripped of his power. The plot was not simply political, it was deeply personal, a ruthless effort to crush the symbol of African independence and dignity. Lumumba became a pawn in the grand chess game of empires, his fate sealed by shadowy decisions made thousands of miles away. Despite the looming danger, Lumumba refused to capitulate. His voice remained defiant, and his supporters mobilized in pockets of resistance. But the writing was on the wall. The forces arrayed against him were too powerful, too well connected, and their resolve was absolute. The fight for Congo's soul had entered its darkest chapter. In September 1960, after Mobutu's coup sidelined Lumumba, the Congolese leader was placed under house arrest in his own capital. Yet Lumumba's spirit remained unbroken. Hearing the calls of his loyalists in Stanleyville, now Kisangani, he made a desperate bid for freedom. Traveling by treacherous roads through rain and mud, He sought to rally support for a counteroffensive to restore legitimate government and crush the secessionist movements threatening the nation's unity. But the CIA and Mobutu's forces were prepared. Lumumba's escape was short-lived. He was captured, humiliated, and subjected to cruel treatment. Paraded like a defeated prisoner, he was beaten and mocked by those who once stood beside him. His powerful image, once a beacon of hope, was reduced to a symbol of betrayal and defeat. Yet even behind bars, Lumumba's mind remained sharp. In secret letters to his wife Pauline, he conveyed his unyielding belief in Africa's destiny and the inevitability of liberation. The world watched with mixed reactions, some silent, others fearful, and many complicit. The United Nations, caught between Cold War rivalries, remained passive. Western media largely muted his plight, while Belgium and the United States ensured the Congolese military leadership held the reins. Lumumba's capture marked the effective end of his political career, but it also set the stage for his tragic martyrdom. Throughout this dark imprisonment, Lumumba never abandoned his vision. His words and actions inspired a generation of Africans and freedom fighters worldwide. The lion of the Congo was caged, but not tamed. His roar would echo through history long after the prison doors closed. On January 17, 1961, Patrice Lumumba was transferred under heavy guard to the breakaway province of Katanga, where his death was planned and executed. The secessionist government, led by Moise Tshombe and backed by Belgian officers and foreign mercenaries, took custody of Lumumba. In a brutal and secretive execution, Lumumba was tortured and shot by a firing squad in a remote forest clearing, far from the eyes of the world. His killing was as much a political statement as an act of murder, meant to extinguish the flame of African independence he had ignited. Yet the horror did not end with his death. Belgian officers sought to erase all evidence of Lumumba's existence. His body was dissolved in acid, an attempt to obliterate the man, the martyr, and the symbol. Only a single tooth survived, taken as a macabre souvenir. For weeks, the Congolese people and the world waited in anguish, with no confirmation of his fate. No public funeral, no gravesite, just silence and shadow. Decades later, investigations would reveal the complicity of the CIA, Belgian government, and even UN officials in the cover-up and indifference that allowed this atrocity to happen. Yet, Lumumba's death became a rallying cry, transforming him into a legend and icon of anti-colonial struggle. From Algiers to Accra, from Harlem to Havana, his image inspired revolutionaries and freedom fighters across the globe, proving that while regimes can kill a man, they cannot kill an idea. Patrice Lumumba's legacy is not just one of tragedy, but of hope and resistance. His vision of a united, free Africa continues to inspire generations. The silence that once surrounded his death has been shattered, and his story demands to be told, loud, clear, and unyielding. Patrice Lumumba's life was stolen, but his dream was immortal. They tried to silence his voice with bullets and acid, to bury his vision in darkness. Yet, like the mighty Congo River that refuses to be tamed, his legacy flows endlessly through the veins of every freedom fighter, every voice demanding justice, every soul yearning for true liberation. His story is a haunting reminder of the cost of colonial greed and the price paid for daring to resist. But it is also a beacon, a call to remember, to resist, and to reclaim the power stolen from Africa and its people. Lumumba did not die in vain. His fire burns within us all, lighting the path toward a future where Africa stands proud, free, and united. Today, we honor Patrice Lumumba, the Lion of the Congo, the martyr of a continent, and the eternal symbol of a people's fight for freedom. The struggle continues, and the world will never forget. If Patrice Lumumba's story moved you, then let his courage guide your next step. Do not let history be silenced again. Click the video on your screen to continue this journey through Africa's hidden truths. Stand with the ancestors. Stand with the truth. The struggle continues, and your knowledge is your weapon.